Quinton de Kock's career makes more sense if you picture him as the kind of kid who could have become exceptional at basically anything that involved a bat and a ball, except he actually nearly picked the wrong sport.
There were two sports that were taking off in my young age, and one was cricket, the other one was baseball. But unfortunately, you had to come to a decision where pick one way. I really wanted to go baseball.
Before South Africa decided he belonged behind the stumps with a Proteas badge on his chest, de Kock was very seriously into baseball. Not the "I owned a glove once" kind, but proper pathway stuff, the kind where a move to the United States wasn't a joke, but an actual pathway. Luckily for South Africa, his father convinced him that cricket was the better bet. But those natural traits that made him a baseball prodigy, the fast bat speed, the clean swing mechanics, and the absolute audacity to believe every ball is hittable, became the foundation for one of cricket's best all-format batters. Quinny didn't stop being a baseball player though, he just started doing baseball things in cricket matches.
Picked up beautifully by Quinton de Kock.
You can still see this baseball DNA in the shot that made him famous, the swivel pickup, where he drags any length from bowlers over deep backward square for a maximum, and it looks like a cricket shot, but it behaves exactly like a baseball swing. Hips first, hands lightning, back coming through flat and fast. In baseball, you don't wait for the ball, you commit, rotate, and trust the swing path.
Back-to-back sixes, Quinton de Kock.
His progression through the levels was fast without being loud. De Kock has never been the look-at-me type player. He attended K School in Johannesburg, a place that already had a reputation for producing serious cricketers, and he was spotted early as a schoolboy talent. From there, he moved to the Gauteng cricket pipeline and into professional domestic cricket as a teenager, which is always a sign that someone might be the next big thing. While other kids were worrying about exams, he was learning how to stand up to quick bowlers, how to read seam movement, and how to make grown men with sponsorship deals feel small. Wicket-keeping came as part of this package: clean hands, quick feet, and a natural affinity for the art, unlike most makeshift keepers you see today. Then came under-19 cricket, where his story stopped being promising and became inevitable. At the 2012 Under-19 World Cup, he wasn't just decent, he was one of South Africa's standout run scorers, including a massive 126 against Namibia and other big contributions, while also showcasing that he could influence games with the gloves. That tournament did what Youth World Cups are meant to do. It put his name into the national conversation as more than a prospect.
A good start for Quinton de Kock.
Domestic cricket then supplied the classic selector's eye-widening moments. In the 2012 Champions League T20, he put together a match-winning partnership with Neil McKenzie against the Mumbai Indians, exactly the kind of high-profile franchise opposition that makes performances echo even louder. He was a young man, a wicketkeeper batsman who could handle big names, big crowds and big pressure without blinking.
Brings up his half-century, and this is a top innings.
That same season, his domestic form kept stacking up, and by the time he broke into international cricket, it felt less like a gamble and more like an overdue promotion. His international debut came in the first T20 internationals against New Zealand in December of 2012, and then ODIs in January 2013. Early on, there was a little false start phase, some quiet games where international bowling didn't politely serve him half volleys. But then, the breakthrough arrived quickly, and when it arrived, it didn't knock, it kicked the door in. In November 2013, he struck his first ODI 112 against Pakistan, and suddenly the conversation shifted from nice youngster to okay, he's real.
Magnificent stuff from Quinton de Kock. That is outstanding. What a way to bring up your first 100 for South Africa.
Then came the series that turned him into a headline, December 2013 against India, when he scored centuries in 3 consecutive ODIs. That's the kind of stat that makes even neutral fans do a double take, because cricket doesn't simply allow that sort of early career arrogance very often, especially not against a world-class opposition.
What a phenomenal performance. He joins 4 others who have got 3 in a row.
Those 300s were also the moment people started throwing around comparisons to Adam Gilchrist and Mark Boucher. Gilchrist for the keeper-opener chaos, Boucher for the South African wicket-keeping lineage and toughness. And to be fair, if you're a young South African wicket-keeper batter breaking records at 21, people are going to reach for the nearest legend to make sense of it.
Well played, young man. Wonderful innings.
What's often missed in the highlight reel version is how quickly he became a complete all-format cricketer. He made his Test debut in February of 2014, and his Test journey is really the story of taking natural aggression, baseball-bred instinct, and reshaping it into something durable enough for 5 days, without ever losing the counter-attacking punch that made him dangerous. His early tests around 2014 were more about adjustment rather than domination, learning when to leave, when to absorb pressure, and how to bat after spending long, draining sessions behind the stumps. But once it clicked, the transformation was obvious. The breakthrough came in 2016 with a superb 129 against England at Centurion, his maiden Test century, where he batted at number 7 and flipped the match on its head with a controlled yet fearless counter-attack that proved he was more than a cameo player.
It's half stopped, but it's a century. Look at that celebration from de Kock. Off comes the helmet.
He backed that up with another 100 in Adelaide later that year against Australia in a series that South Africa famously won away from home, confirming he could perform in the hardest of conditions. From there, his Test career settled into a pattern of high-impact contributions, a steady 2017 with another century and a consistent middle-order resistance,
Australian torture is South African joy.
followed by a quieter 2018 before bouncing back strongly in 2019 with 2 more Test hundreds and several key innings where he rescued South Africa from trouble while still carrying a heavy wicket-keeping load. What makes that period so impressive is the dual responsibility he carried. De Kock wasn't just batting, he was keeping wicket through entire Test matches, taking hundreds of overs behind the stumps and walking out to bat expected to produce specialist level runs. Across 54 Tests, he finished with nearly 3,300 runs and an average of nearly 40, along with over 200 catches, making him one of South Africa's most productive wicketkeeper batters in the format. His final phase in Test cricket again showed his value, culminating in a career-best 141 not out against the West Indies in 2021, an innings that perfectly summed up his calm, attacking when required, and capable of dominating tight attacks while holding an innings together approach.
Smashed away, and that's the 100. A 6th Test match 100 for Quinton de Kock.
So when he shocked the cricketing world by retiring from Tests at just 29 years old, it wasn't just because he hadn't succeeded in the format, it was because he'd already proved that he was the gold standard at the Test level and he was leaving too soon. Between 2017 and 2021, de Kock moved from being South Africa's exciting young star to becoming the quiet engine room of their white ball batting, the player whose runs you almost took for granted because they kept coming series after series. These were the years when the Proteas lineup kept changing, senior players moved on and results fluctuated, yet de Kock's presence at the top of the order remained constant. In ODIs, he stacked season after season of heavy returns, 2017 overflowing with runs and consistency, 2018 steady but still valuable. Then another surge through 2019 and 2020, followed by a ridiculously productive burst in 2021. His wicket-keeping value kept compounding through all of this, and it's easy to forget how rare it is to have a top-order batter who also delivers elite keeping volume.
And what's done? Yes, has he held on to that? He has.
His career totals tell the story. In Tests alone, he finished with over 200 catches. In ODIs and T20s, he had huge dismissal numbers too. This matters because it changes the team balance. With de Kock, you don't sacrifice keeping for batting or vice versa, you get both, something especially rare in the game's shortest format. By late 2021 though, the grind caught up with him in the format that demands the most emotional and physical bandwidth, Tests. In December of 2021, he announced a shock retirement from Test cricket. It wasn't framed as drama, it was framed as life.
Today I've officially announced my retirement from Test cricket. It was quite a tough one, but like I said, I'm doing what my heart is telling me what's best.
That choice becomes part of the modern athlete story. The idea that you can step away from a format even while you're still good at it, because still good doesn't always mean still happy. After walking away from red ball cricket, Quinton was still South Africa's most valuable white ball player. The defining ODI chapter in his career came in the 2023 ODI World Cup, which arrived under the strange premise of being his farewell tour in the format. Before the tournament began, he'd already confirmed that he would retire from ODIs afterward, and those announcements usually produced sentimental send-offs, nice applause, respectable cameos, and a quiet exit. But watching that tournament unfold, it felt like de Kock had decided that if this really was his final act, he was going to leave something unforgettable behind.
Insult into the wounds is Quinton de Kock, and he gets to 100 in some style.
4 centuries followed, including commanding hundreds against Sri Lanka and Australia and a monumental 174 against Bangladesh. By the end of the tournament, he crossed 500 runs and stood as the event's most dominant batter, completely reshaping the conversation around his ODI legacy. Instead of being remembered for flashes of brilliance, that World Cup cemented him as the architect of one of South Africa's great batting campaigns on the biggest stage.
Yes, it is just. Up comes the 150 for Quinton de Kock for the 3rd time.
When it came time for his final walk back, many questioned why. Just like his Test career, he was choosing to walk away at the peak of his powers when it seemed like he still had so much more to give. The emotional swing that followed in 2024 only added another twist. South Africa finally reached the Men's T20 World Cup final, only to lose to India by 7 runs in a match that left the squad and supporters stunned. After that defeat, de Kock quietly faded from the international picture. No dramatic retirement, no extended farewell, simply slipping away in a manner that felt entirely in character for someone never comfortable with cricket's off-field spotlight. It felt like we'd seen the last of Quinton de Kock in a South African jersey. And then something amazing happened. He decided he wanted to come back, that he wanted to play for the Proteas, and his return when it came felt almost understated at first, with others doing the talking before he reappeared in national colours, speaking about missing the camaraderie and rediscovering the feeling of playing for South Africa after time away. The SA20 almost feels like the bridge chapter that makes his comeback make sense. After stepping away from international cricket following the heartbreak of the 2024 T20 World Cup final, de Kock didn't vanish from the game entirely. He just moved out of the international spotlight and into the franchise circuit, where expectations are different and pressures feel more personal than national. By the time the 2025-2026 SA20 season arrived, you could almost see the freedom in his batting again. Night after night, he walked out and did what he'd always done best, taking control of bowling early, dismantling any plans, and making runs effortlessly easy.
Yeah, 50-20-50 to go with 200s for Quinton de Kock.
He finished as the tournament's leading run scorer and the player of the series as Sunrisers Eastern Cape lifted another title. Watching that season unfold, it felt less like a veteran squeezing out late runs in his career, and more like a player rediscovering his peak form and why he loved the game in the first place. SA20 has been the stage where Quinny quietly reminded everyone, including perhaps himself, that he was still one of the most dangerous white ball batters in the world. And then, January 29th, 2026 arrived, and with it came one of those innings that instantly resets the narrative. In the second T20I against the West Indies, de Kock blasted 115 from just 49 balls, smashing 10 sixes as South Africa chased down 222 with overs to spare and sealed the series.
South Africa charged and ready.
Yeah, fantastic from South Africa. He wrapped up the series in his first two encounters.
It didn't just look like a player easing himself back into international cricket. In fact, it looked like somebody who'd taken time away and returned with even less patience for bowling plans. The way he cleared the ropes, especially when swiveling onto length and sending the ball deep into the stands, felt like a perfect echo of his baseball roots that shaped his swing in the first place. Quick hands, high follow-through, and absolute trust in striking power.
Quinton de Kock goes to 100, loves batting against the West Indies.
Even when Quinny returned last year to the national side, he looked great, scoring loads of runs against India and Pakistan, including hundreds against both oppositions in their respective ODI series. But now, on the back of the SA20 in the West Indies series, he almost looks unstoppable. All of this shapes what he represents heading into the 2026 T20 World Cup. South Africa entered the tournament with the best white ball player in the world right now, an opener in prime white ball form after dominating the SA20, fresh off stunning international centuries and carrying the experience of multiple ICC tournaments. In T20 World Cups, success hinges often not on sustained dominance, but on players who can win matches almost single-handedly when pressure peaks, and de Kock remains that type of player.
And again, 6 more back-to-back sixes.
When he gets going early on, bowling plans unravel, captains scramble, and games tilt quickly. Add his wicket-keeping value into the equation, and it shows why his re-addition makes South Africa such a force and favourite heading into the T20 World Cup.